Hey guys, hope you guys are well. This video is going to cover the Double Sabers, and this is the first guide of 2023, and I hope this helps you guys as well, whether you're new to Double Sabers or already experienced with it. We'll go over the skill tree for Double Sabers specifically and its PAs. The Double Sabers are very fast and can do a lot of DPS. The utility of the Whirlwind makes the Double Sabers a good choice for AoE and flexibility. I'm not going to go too in-depth on every skill. I already have a skill tree guide, one of my very first guides actually, so if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link to the video below. But anyways, the skill tree, we have Overload and all the perks for it, with PP recovery, short cooldown, and damage increase. The only downside is that you'll take more damage than you usually do. The Fighter Skip Arts, that lets you skip your normal attacks depending on your PA chain, whether if it's the same arts or another arts. The rest we can ignore for now since we're only focusing on Double Sabers in this video. So in other words, the Double Sabers have like 5 or 6 skills total. Starting off with Saber Attack Extra, which allows you to chain up to 4 normal attacks instead of 3. This 4th normal attack, I think it has iframes and is very safe to use. Saber Parry Counter grants you the ability to follow up with a normal attack after a successful weapon action block. And Saber Parry Another Counter is the same thing, but you can follow up by pressing the weapon action again, providing some gap closure. The Saber Glaze PP gain regains the ability to regen PP when you're in the second state of the Whirlwind. Deadly Archer, this can only work when you're coated with the second state of the Whirlwind. This lets you throw the Double Sabers and deal massive DPS on enemies, very good on down bosses. Spiral Drive is another version, but this triggers by holding down the normal attack button, dealing massive AoE damage to those around you. Saber Wind Extra is a brand new skill, and a very good one at that. This grants you the ability to charge up to 3 stages instead of 2, and there are some twists that this skill can bring out. 1. Using Deadly Archer will consume all 3 stages, and you'll be at an empty state after using it. And 2. Using Spiral Drive at stage 3 will allow you to go back to stage 2 of the Whirlwind. So moving on to the Photon Arts, each PA has 2 variations, one with directional and non-directional inputs. Julian Dance, the directional input is a good gap closure following up with a combo. However, if used without a locked on target, you'll just skip the dash animation for the gap closure and follow up with a vertical swoop into the second variation. The non-directional version skips to the second variation of the PA, doing a combo of attacks instead. The Unchained Circle, the directional input for this one is throwing the sabers around you, following up with a final slash. However, you are animation locked for the first half of the PA. And the non-directional version of this one just skips the first variation and only does the final slash instead. The Quick Gash directional input, you will do a series of 2 or 3 initial hits before unleashing a tiny whirlwind at the end. And then the non-directional version skips the first 3 hits and immediately spawns a whirlwind instead. And then we have Sky Climb, which is one of the newer PAs. The directional input for this one is performing a vertical sweep, gaining some height, following up with a downward smash. And then the non-directional version performs the smash instead, skipping the first half of the PA. For utilizing the Whirlwind, since it can go up to 3 stages now, depending on what the situation is, it can vary. The weapon action has multiple functionalities when it comes to combat, generic counterattacking, weapon action gap closure after counters, and the Deadly Archer where you throw your sabers like a Beyblade, letting it rip. If you're mobbing in combat zones, Double Sabers Whirlwind is very good for this situation because I would recommend charging up the Whirlwind into the 3rd state and just leave it as is. You don't have to detonate it or anything like that. The AoE damage on the 3rd stage is actually pretty good, but if you decide to detonate it, obviously it's better to detonate it when there's like a bunch of mobs around. But if you don't know how to do it, it's just holding down the normal attack button just to detonate the AoE attack. And like I said earlier, the only drawback is that you'll go back to stage 2 when you do this method, but it's not that hard to go back up to stage 3. It's pretty easy. And then the Deadly Archer, just use on bosses. It's easier to hit down bosses instead of enemies that's like constantly flying around. And then for counter-attacking, in terms of counter-attacking, weapon action or sidestep countering, it is still very good as well. Fast response time. The weapon actions, you have 2 options to either normal attack after or weapon action again. The weapon action is good for gap closures as well. I'm pretty sure the normal attack one has a little bit of gap closures after the weapon action, and the sidestepping version is good as well. And the benefit of the sidestep counters when you successfully counter is that if you while you're airborne and you do a sidestep and you counter, you maintain that height for a longer period of time. So you won't lose height if you successfully counter. And then the next thing I want to touch base on is the 4th normal attack that the Sabers have now. The 4th normal attack is pretty strong, I believe, and I think it has iframes as well. There are multiple ways to trigger the 4th attack string instead of doing the whole normal attack combo, such as using the 2 PAs to skip to the 3rd normal into the 4th normal, or the 2 different PAs to skip directly to the 4th normal. And since the PAs have alternate variations thanks to the skip art skill in the skill tree, for example, you can do the 2nd variation of the Sky Climb and the Unchanged Circle PA into the 4th normal attack, or Julian Dance into any 2nd variant PAs into normal, or something like that. It's even better if you do this process while Overload is active. When I tested it, the damage was pretty insane, and I did have a recording on this, so here, have a look-see and see for yourself. To me, the damage seems pretty good. But yeah, that's basically all there is to the Double Sabers. The Whirlwind is pretty OP, the counter ability, AoE DPS, it's got a lot of perks. The only hassle is that you gotta keep up the Whirlwind, which makes it harder to do multi-weapons with. Unless you're like a god and utilize 2 weapons at the same time, but yeah. Multi-weaponing this is gonna be difficult because you'll be spending more time on the Double Sabers since you have to put in the work just to keep the Whirlwind up. And if you're feeling fancy, you could try the Twin Daggers or Soaring Blades. I did do tests on both of those weapons. I don't know. Overload for more damage, but you got to be careful because you'll also take more damage if you get hit. But yeah, I think that's about it. If there's any more that I may have missed, I'll post them in the comments. And if you guys have any more information that you guys want to share, feel free to comment down below. And yeah, I hope this helps. If it did, I'd appreciate a like and sub to the channel for more PSO2 content, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.